HSRs and WHS obligations. I'm Stephanie from WorkSafe Tasmania and also the coordinator of WorkSafe Tasmania Month. I will be your moderator for this afternoon's webinar, but before we do get started, there are just there's a slide that I'd like you to take a few moments to read about information delivered during WorkSafe Month sessions. I'd now like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in today's webinar. So we've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your computer screen in the upper right-hand corner. You're likely listening in using your computer's speaker system by default. However, if you'd prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will also have the opportunity to submit questions during today's webinar by typing in your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will collect these and address them during the webinar and also at the end. We are recording today's webinar as well, so any webinars that we do run during WorkSafe Month will progressively make its way to the WorkSafe Tasmania website. And probably lastly as well, once you do leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate you completing that survey and providing us with your feedback. I would now like to introduce your presenters for this afternoon. From IPM Safety, we have Beck Luttrell, and we also have Oliver Fearman to present HSRs and WHS obligations. Welcome, Beck and Oliver.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, everybody. And before we kick off, if we could quickly run a poll question with you all.
Okay, so the poll question is, does your organisation currently have health and safety representatives within the workplace? So the poll will come up, and if you can submit your answers, either a yes or no. Whoops. So we'll close that poll in a couple of seconds. So the poll is closed, and we'll now share the responses.
Excellent. So it looks like we have a number of workplaces in attendance with some familiarity around HSRs and the experience they can, or the value they can add to a workplace. Before we get started, we'll just give you a brief introduction of ourselves and who the voices you're hearing presently are. My name is Oliver Fearman. I'm a workplace health and safety consultant with IPM Safety. I've been involved in workplace health and safety for just on 10 years now. In the last 5, I've been everywhere from oil and gas in Queensland through to mining and construction in Africa and Papua New Guinea. More recently, my little baby boy came into the world and I decided to get back to Tassie. It's a great place to grow up, in my belief. It's what I did, and I hope he feels the same way when he gets to my age. And with me today is Beck Luttrell. Beck?
Thanks, Oliver. So my name is Beck Luttrell and I work as an injury management consultant at IPM Safety. My primary role at IPM is working within the Fitness for Work team, assisting employees on work compensation, return to work in a safe and timely manner. My other role at IPM is also working the Work Health Safety team, consulting and running the public health and safety representative courses across Tasmania. My background prior to commencing at IPM was working in local government, where I was assisting in human resources in the training coordination there. I also have a background in rehabilitation counselling and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Sociology. My ultimate aim through my role in the Work Health Safety scheme is to eliminate injuries in the workplace and make my injury management primary position ultimately redundant. So today we're going to cover a little bit on the benefits of having HSRs in your workplace and what value they can add.
So within today's topics, we will be covering stakeholders, workplace health and safety obligations, the need to consult, PCBU support for HSRs, and as soon as it lets me show it, here we are, and identifying HSRs in the workplace and the benefits of having HSRs in the workplace. Now, to ensure that you guys tuning in and listening to us today get the most value you can out of our webinar, please do submit questions as we go so that we can provide any clarity that may be of value to you tuning in. So, to start off with, the key stakeholders within the context of what today are person conducting a business or undertaking. Essentially, the PCBU is terminology used to encompass all the modern types of working arrangements. We've got some very variable workplaces in this day and age. There's a lot of different groups that pass through a workplace. The new legislation has placed primary duty of care on the PCBUs to ensure that everyone operating within that workspace is owed that same duty of care. On top of that, we now have the term worker, who is the person who carries out work in any capacity for a PCBU. And of course, our health and safety representatives, who are a person elected by the members of a work group within the workplace, represent that work group during consultation on work health and safety issues. So a go-to resource that exists within the workplace. And we will now continue. So the obligations of the PCBU in relation to HSRs is to consult with the HSRs on workplace health and safety matters at the workplace. So obviously, as a health and safety representative, we want to involve these people in health and safety in the workplace. Makes a lot of sense. And also to confer with the HSRs to ensure health and safety of the work group and workers. So HSRs provide us eyes and ears out there that can really add value, and the PCBU needs to involve them. So to allow HSR access to information that the PCBU has relating to hazards and risks affecting the health and safety of the workers in the work groups, such as your risk reports, hazard reporting, information that's relative to managing workplace health and safety. To allow HSRs to attend interviews concerning work health and safety between one or more workers, obviously with their consent, and an inspector or another PCBU.
So just following on from the PCBU obligations, other ways that a PCBU are obligated to support HSRs is to provide HSRs with resources and facilities to assist and assistance that is reasonably necessary to enable the HSR to exercise their powers and perform their functions under the Work Health Safety Act. The PCBU must allow a person assisting a HSR to have access to the workplace if it is necessary to enable the assistance to be provided. provided. That PCBU must permit the HSRs to accompany an inspector during an inspection of any part of the workplace where the member of the HSR's work group works. The PCBU must also provide any assistance to the HSR as they require under the work health safety obligations. They need to allow the HSR as much time as is reasonably necessary to perform their powers and functions under the Work Health Safety Act, and they need to pay a HSR performing their role the same amount they are entitled to receive when performing their normal duties. So being a HSR does not automatically mean you get a pay rise.
So HSRs links to the work group and management in matters relating to workplace health and safety. So the value we get from our HSRs in this space is that they know the workplace. So we're talking about people who have been nominated by the workforce and who are actively involved in that workforce, contributing to health and safety, being a link between the work group and the management team. They're easily approached by workers who may feel intimidated by management roles, personalities. Quite often people are more comfortable to spend time talking about these matters with people that they frequently interact with. And obviously when we work together in a work group, we tend to have more involvement with each other than people whose roles have them tied up with other responsibilities. They also have more training in workplace health and safety following the 5-day course that they are able to attend, which obviously makes a significant amount of difference in terms of how they can influence and assist health and safety. We definitely, when we're delivering the health and safety training with the attendees we have, work on giving these people a lot of knowledge to be able to effectively facilitate improved health and safety in their workspaces. And they are privy to strategic information through the Health and Safety Committee. So where a committee exists within the workplace or through the sharing of information within the workplace, they are provided with information relevant to strategies around managing risk in the work environment. And they officially represent the work group regarding workplace health and safety. So there's a go-to for both management and the work group as a whole in relation to workplace health and safety.
Okay, consultation. So this is outlined in the Act and it demonstrates what a PCBU must do. So a person conducting a business or undertaking must consult so far as reasonably practicable with workers who carry out work for their business or undertaking and who are or likely to be directly affected by the health and safety matter. So this is the PCBU's responsibility on when they must consult in a workplace. So consultation is consulting your workers who carry out work for you who are directly affected by work health safety matter. If have health and safety representatives, consultation must include HSRs. So the PCBU must consult with HSRs within their work groups. PCBUs can also involve the Health and Safety Committee when consulting on relevant information regarding health and safety. So the PCBU's main goal is to consult and to cooperate and coordinate activities with other duty holders. So other duty holders can include contractors and subcontractors, manufacturers of plant and providers of chemicals. So it's providing all the information on health and safety matters regarding the activities within a work group and how they can be changed and affected for their workers.
While also actively including people such as contractors, etc., who can exist within that workspace and obviously also hold a duty of care around managing the risks that we see in that workspace. So in terms of the responsibilities PCBUs have for consulting with workers and HSRs, workers and HSRs need to be consulted in the process of identifying hazards and assessing risks in the work. Now, clearly the people that are out conducting the work and actively engaged in managing the risk have a lot of value to add in terms of determining processes for managing and addressing that risk, and that's what drives that particular aspect of that requirement. And the next one, which is making decisions to eliminate or minimise those risks. Also making decisions around the adequacy of facilities or for the welfare of the workers. Again, getting an accurate picture of any of the challenges that the workplace is facing involves engagement of the workforce. Proposing changes that may affect the health or safety of workers. Again, when we introduce controls into the work environment, a very important aspect of that is also ensuring that they effectively manage the risks and don't bring any new risks into the work environment. And one of the ways that we're able to identify and address those things is through engaging workers in proposed changes. Making decisions about procedures for consulting with workers, resolving health and safety issues, monitoring the health of workers. That could be in line with, workforce may have requirements for monitoring in relation to exposure to certain substances or general health as a result of risks faced within the workplace. Monitoring the conditions of the workplace and providing information and training for the workers. We want to be engaging everyone actively in all of those aspects. And an aspect of effectively doing that is sharing information as well as effective consultation. So a PCBU must allow a HSR access to information relating to work-related incidents or disease, including statistical records such as an injury register. Now obviously there's some privacy issues also in this space in terms of individuals who have been injured and the reports have gone in this space. We're not anticipating that all of the private information will also be shared. This is in relation to the information as it specifically pertains to the management of risks existing in the workplace. Items such as asbestos registers and asbestos management plans, which a person with management or control of a workplace must ensure are readily available to HSRs at any times. Obviously that's very important information around managing a specific risk within the workplace, and having that readily available to the people within it is fair and reasonable. Health and safety policies and procedures, including safe work method statements. Obviously where we have documentation that explains expectations around managing risk and work activity within the workplace, we need to ensure that that is readily available to the people who will be actively managing that risk and also assisting in leading workplace health and safety in the workspace, which is the role of the HSR. Safety data sheets for the chemicals that are used in the workplace, again a fantastic source of information around risks that may exist within some of the activities that workplaces are conducting, and minutes of health and safety committee meetings, which we touched on earlier around the value of that in regards to strategy for health and safety.
Okay, so initially when identifying HSRs in the workplace, you need to be able to identify certain work groups in which the HSRs are going to represent. So work groups are formed to enable workers to elect an HSR and represent them on health and safety matters. The need to identify the work groups ensures that there's an adequate numbers of HSRs within a workplace, so then the workers have the availability of going to a HSR when they are working. So when identifying a work group, you need to look at the nature of work undertaken and looking at the similarities of work, the areas of work undertaken, so whether or not there's multiple work sites or do they work off-site, rural, and those things, and also the time work is undertaken. So if you're looking at shift work or a rotating roster, making sure that there is enough HSRs available so that the workers do have someone that they can approach at the time that they are at work. So when you've identified the work groups within the workplace, an election process has to occur to elect HSRs and deputy HSRs, and that needs to be elected by members of their work group. So All workers in the workgroup must be provided with a reasonable opportunity to nominate HSRs and vote in the election. The workgroup decides on the election process if one is needed by either a show of hands, a secret ballot or a union process. The PCBU and members of the workgroup must be informed of the election and the outcome as soon as possible. The way the PCBU supports this process is to provide any resources and facilities and assistance that are reasonably necessary to undertake the elections to be conducted. For example, providing reasonable access to printing resources for election notices to be displayed within the workplace. Other resources and facilities include access to a meeting room or to the internet. The PCBU must not unreasonably delay the election of a HSR and cannot simply appoint a HSR. Where a HSR is appointed by a member of the PCBU or an officer, as long as the work group agree that that person can represent them in health and safety matters, then that person can go ahead and become the HSR of that group. So, training for an elected HSR. If a HSR or deputy HSR has made a request, the PCBU must allow them to attend a training course in work health and safety. HSRs and deputy HSRs are entitled to attend an initial training course over 5 days. They are also entitled to 1 day's refresher training each year, with the first refresher training commencing 1 year after the initial training. The course of training in health and safety must be approved by a regulator and be chosen by the HSR in consultation with the PCBU.
So with this next slide, this actually ties back to the handout which has been sent through to you prior to attending today and is available, from my understanding, through this process somehow. I'd love to give you more detail than that, but my technical skills are somewhat limited. So, in relation to the HSR powers and functions, HSRs have the ability to inspect the workplace after giving a reasonable notice to the PCBU. So in short, it adds a lot of value for the people representing workplace health and safety to be actively participating in and leading it. An inspection process is a good way of doing that, looking at how we're managing risk in the workplace, the conditions as they are. However, also within the process of ensuring that we have effective relationship with all parties, a reasonable notification to the PCBU is a appropriate way of commencing that. There's also times where inspecting the workplace without notice in the event of a serious and immediate risk to health and safety will also be required. Obviously, where we identify, if someone raises a concern, if that's raised with the HSR, it's quite reasonable for that HSR then to go and have a look at that, is what we're leading to there. And there's a lot of value in supporting the team within that process. Accompanying an inspector during an inspection of the work group, there's a lot of value to be gained from having experts like the WorkSafe guys come through your workplace and have a look. Where you can, if you're a HSR and you're looking to get some learning opportunities, that's a great place to start. So definitely where you can get involved in that. Represent a worker at a workplace health and safety interview if requested by the worker. Obviously, if the worker doesn't really want someone there in attendance to support them, we can't make ourselves present. However, where they would like that, there's a lot of value in doing so. Whenever necessary, request the assistance of any person. And again, that's about, we're a health and safety representative within the workplace. We want to ensure that we can support people, and sometimes we need help in doing that. However, there is a bit of a catch to that in the space of, just because you would like assistance doesn't mean that we can bring someone in who will cost the organisation money. So we need to be aware of that, and where that may be the case, discuss with the organisation how that might be appropriately managed. Direct the work group or worker to cease work. So anyone within the workplace obviously has the opportunity and needs to stop work that is unsafe or could lead to harm. However, in the position of HSR, you are entitled to direct a group, which is within the space of going over and saying, hang on guys, I have a serious concern here, how are we managing this? And where it's appropriate, saying, right, we need to stop, we need to resolve this situation. Issue a PIN, and again, you'll hear a lot about that in HSR training. Essentially, that's a tool for we've tried the other avenues and now we need to stop it. The PIN will assist you there. And obviously the final dot point is leading to the handout, which is hopefully in your hands right now. Your other powers and functions are to represent the workers in their work group in relation to workplace health and safety matters, to monitor the measures taken by the PCBU to comply with the Workplace Health and Safety Act in relation to the work group members. That's about looking at, are we managing risk effectively? Are we fulfilling our duty of care? Investigate complaints from work group members about work health and safety. So where people have raised concerns, doing what we can to identify and address the cause of those concerns. And inquire into anything that appears to be a risk to the health and safety of workgroup members arising from the conduct of the business or undertaking. Again, we're a health and safety representative. Getting actively involved in identifying and addressing issues is very much one of the functions. And a note to add to that is that the HSR role is an advisory role. So when you become a HSR, you don't suddenly have a greater level of responsibility around health and safety from an accountability perspective. Your role is very much to advise and assist in the management of health and safety. So supporting people to get home safe and well, which is a great thing to do. And those of you who are, congratulations and thank you for doing that for your workplace.
So one of the primary duties that a HSR has is building constructive relationships. So they need to be able to build and maintain relationships with managers and supervisors of their work groups, members of the Health and Safety Committee, and obviously the workers that they represent. In order to do this effectively, a HSR must be approachable and trustworthy and be the go-to person for their workers. They need to hear what's really going on in the workplace, so being on the ground, being involved in the activities of day-to-day functions of that work group. Being respected enough to be heard, so not just within the workers but also within their supervisors and managers as well. And by having a closer relationship and greater contact with both the workers and the managers and supervisors in the work groups, it often gives more and better information. So having that approachable nature will assist a HSR in being able to complete their investigations and come up with solutions that are beneficial to everyone. So to be able to do this, and the benefits of having a HSR in your workplace is to assist in resolving health and safety issue. So an issue is any concern about health and safety at the workplace that remains unresolved after consultation with the affected workers and the relevant PCBU has occurred. Strategies and tools the HSR can use in issue resolution is by collecting and collating the information and presenting this information to the duty holders. So this could include conducting a risk assessment, monitoring results, having a look at the safety data sheets, or looking at the relevant standards and regulations and getting the background information and doing their homework on the issues. A HSR may attend a meeting to support a worker between management and a worker to discuss a work health safety issue. So as Oliver mentioned before, a HSR can go to a meeting between a worker and a work group when they are asked to, and with all well-meaning that you may have in attending a meeting and wanting to be there to support the process. If the worker doesn't want you there, then that's where your role does stop. A HSR may attend a meeting with management to discuss work health safety issues and use active listening, respective tones and making reasonable suggestions for improvements. Now, part of the consultation process is that the PCBU doesn't have to agree or doesn't have to take on board what the HSR is saying, but if you have done your homework and got the relevant information to you and can present that to them, it's going to make your argument a lot better. And a HSR may have their unresolved parties focus on their interest in the issue rather than their fixed position. So being that mediator between the worker and the PCBU and really supporting the process to hopefully get to the bottom of the issue.
And where we come to within that space in regards to addressing issues is that often where issues identified within workplace health and safety come into the workplace, there can be a lot of emotion tied into these things, and emotion's healthy. You know, getting people home safe and well to their families is a big deal, and people should feel strong in regards to that. However, we want to ensure that that emotion doesn't move into the space of being unproductive. And how we address that is when we are within this issue resolution process, we look at delivering facts. So getting to the core of what the information is in relation to that matter and delivering that, talking relative to that, because within those facts will be how we can find the solution to ensuring that we do manage that risk well and ensure that everybody gets home in a safe condition to their families and the other priorities that they have outside of work. And one other thing I'd tie back there just quickly too is the respectful tone factor. We can all achieve this. I'll give you an example right now. Gee, thank you, Beck. I've really appreciated your participation today. Hopefully you can hear in my voice the difference between that and thank you, Beck. I really appreciate having you here today. So we want to ensure when we're involved and out there with the workplace, we come from a genuine spot when we're having those conversations. There's a lot of value in delivering that to people. So if we're genuine about what our intentions are and how we would like to assist in the issue resolution, we will be a lot more successful in doing so. So the benefits of a HSR in the workplace. Well, I'm hoping by the response that we got to our poll right at the start that many are aware of some of these benefits. The reality is where we have a larger number of ears and eyes in the workplace with a higher level of understanding of what health and safety is and how to effectively manage that, we can ensure that the issues are not only identified but reported and the appropriate processes are followed so that we can track how we're performing in terms of effectively and systematically managing risk that exists within our workplace. Forming cooperative relationships with supervisors and managers of your work groups, that in itself is a talent, and many HSRs that I've met so far through the training courses that we've done have found that to be one of the biggest challenges. Work groups are incredibly diverse people. As a management, everybody that you will encounter in a workplace will be different to everyone that you have met prior, and being able to effectively form cooperative relationships with all of them is a challenge. It doesn't mean you have to be everybody's friend. Achieving that is probably beyond all of us. However, we need to be able to be cooperative and effective in doing what the goal is for all of us, which is getting everyone home to their families and their priorities outside. So also assisting workers to complete an incident or hazard report. Those of you who are listening that are HSRs, I'm truly believing that all of you already presently are very aware of the systems that exist within your workplace around hazard reporting, incident reporting, etc. And that really needs to be the case. One of the strengths that you can deliver for your team is assisting them to understand how to do these things. And that's not just through saying, hey, go over there and grab that form and go and hand it to so-and-so. That's, look, are you familiar with how to do this? Can I help you with it? Just to ensure that people get a good understanding with these processes and they're comfortable to use them. The more comfort and clarity we have within our workforce, the greater our ability to use the processes that we have to support them. Treat all issues in a sensitive and confidential manner. I've been working in workplace health and safety for 10 years, and partly due to my really bad memory and partly due to understanding that some of the stuff people share with you when you're the health and safety representative or go-to person within a workplace might not necessarily need to go to anybody else, and some of it will. And being able to clarify between the two and ensure that you deliver the appropriate information and retain within that conversation the items that don't need to go beyond it is an important aspect of that. Ensure important health and safety information gets to workers. As Beck touched on before, within that space of being a health and safety representative, you get a lot of information from both sides, from the management and from the workforce, that needs to be delivered to either of those two groups. That divide between management and work groups, in my experiences in workplace health and safety so far, is one of the biggest challenges to overcome, and the health and safety representative role is crucial in being able to bridge that gap and ensure that both parties are able to communicate clearly and effectively with each other around a very important topic. And providing guidance and support to all workers on site in dealing with any workplace health and safety issue. So through the existing knowledge and experience of being workers in a workplace who have existed in there long enough to develop the respect that you have to be nominated into the health and safety representative position, and also through the 5-day course that you can do as well, you'll have a skill set that enables you to effectively assist people in dealing with workplace health and safety issues that exist within that workspace. And now, questions, folks.
Well, thank you.
I'm hoping Stephanie has some for us.
Not just yet, Beck and Oliver, but thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon, HSRs and WHS obligations. There is still time to submit any questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So if there is anything that you'd like to raise with Beck or Oliver, please do. While those questions are coming through, I'll just remind you as well, for any HSRs that are hooked in, that we do have the HSR conference coming up in Launceston next Tuesday on the 13th of October at the Country Club, and then in Hobart on the 20th of October. So if you haven't yet registered for the conference, please do. This year's conference and workshops will cover safe work systems and safety culture, conducting risk assessments and supporting injured workers. Morning tea, lunch is provided, so again, please do have a look in the program. Do head to the WorkSafe month website, and if you're interested in attending the conference this year, it is a free event to attend. Please do register. And no questions have come through, so I'll continue on and let people know again that if there is more information that you would like about WorkSafe Tasmania month and the sessions that we are running, do head to the WorkSafe Tasmania website. One question that has come through, Beck and Oliver, if on days off I get paid my usual pay rate when attending an HSC meeting. I'll read that again.
Sorry, could you repeat that, Steph?
I'll repeat
I
that
lost you a
again,
bit
yes.
through there.
If on days off, if on days off I get paid my usual pay rate when attending an HSC meeting.
Do you get paid for attending a HSC meeting?
If on days off.
If you're on the days off, do you?
Yes.
That's actually an interesting question. I wouldn't be confident that you do. What I would suggest is that generally what needs to be arranged within the workplace is that those health and safety committee meetings where you're expected to attend to them are delivered within your usual working hours.
So that it's obviously difficult if you're on a rotating roster, and if the meetings are on a shift that you're not usually rostered on, then that would need to be a discussion between yourself and management as to if it's on your day off, what is the arrangements? Do I get paid, or is this I come in and or can a deputy HSR, or do I still be able to give my information to that meeting across? But I don't think it's set out anywhere to outline whether or not you get paid, but it's certainly a discussion between yourself and management that needs to be outlined, so then the expectation is quite clear of whether or not you can get paid, or if you're not there, how do you still get your information, and what you want to share in the meetings effectively still gets discussed.
Yeah, well, there is a requirement that you were still paid your usual rate when performing the role of HSR. Where that requires you to attend something outside of your standard hours, I'd be looking at whether that's necessary to have it at that point in time, whether there's a way to structure it so that it can occur within your standard hours, or looking to discuss with the business how you address the inability to deliver that during that time. Just hearing the comment before about the HSR catch-up that you mentioned, Steph.
The
Just
conference.
quickly to the attendees, the conference, thank you, I was looking for the right word. I would actively encourage all of you who can to attend that. There's a substantial amount of value in being able to get together with other people who are fulfilling the same role within other work environments. It's an opportunity to hear about how others have overcome or addressed solution challenges that you guys are facing within your own workplaces, and also potentially deliver that same value to some of the other attendees. So where you can, please do so.
Thank you for that, Oliver. Still time to submit any questions. A comment did come through, Beck and Oliver, just saying that no show, no pay. That this person was fairly confident of that point. So
Yeah, it definitely would normally be a discussion between management and the Health and Safety Committee and the members, and be set out amongst your own agreements in the workplace. So it may differ from work groups to workplaces, but it would be an internal discussion and decision made.
So a lot of value in being able to structure those so that people are able to attend them within their working hours. However, obviously some work arrangements that's not achievable, and then we need to negotiate.
okay. All right, thank you again for that, Beck and Oliver. And again, just a reminder about the 2 HSR conferences that are coming up. As Beck and Oliver mentioned, they do provide a lot of value and cover necessary topics for HSRs, and it is obviously a good opportunity